network to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
The conversations off the air were highly entertaining. You had Laura Stiles, who didn't want Rosenberg to sound like a privileged gringo. You have Shawnee Culture, who is trying to explain to Rosenberg that his experience in Cuba, Shawnee grew up like that in Trinidad. Like when he goes up in the mountains with the elders and, like, what are you even talking about?
When he would go visit Trinidad. Yeah.
When he would go visit, obviously.
Right.
And then you have Cast One talking about the Campo and what goes down in DR, which is...
even in the city of DR right now, you might have power, you might not.
Right.
You might have water, you might not.
And I keep telling them, I'm trying to explain to them, the story for me isn't that Rosenberg went to Cuba, which I think is amazing. He went to Cuba, and he knew what he was getting into, and he wanted the experience. The amazing part of the story for me is the fact that I know Rosenberg. He don't want to go on no adventure for his vacation. He want to go sit by a pool, sleep, maybe smoke, sip a beverage, read a wrestling book.
I had my book. Shout out to Brian Gewirtz. I had his book with me.
And that was what his vacation was. So I was waiting for this moment. I've been waiting weeks.
But I mentally try to prepare him, Ebro.
It don't matter, Laura. It don't matter. The only reason he went on the trip was because he knew his new wife wants to get down there and take these amazing photos down there.
Fiance.
Fiance.
My fiance.
And she loves an adventure. She hangs off the side of buildings.
Yes,
she flies in helicopters. She'll be in the top of, we going to the Himalayas? I'll hike up the Himalayas just to get a picture of a snow leopard mating or whatever she's trying to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I knew Rosenberg was only doing this for the new family member that he has. This isn't what he wants to do with his life.
Right.
But he did it.
I did it. Yeah, Ebro sent me a very, by the way, it was off to a bad start. Ebro sent me a very encouraging text being like, hey, man, you're getting out of your zone for your new lady. I'm proud of you. This is great. But you keep in mind, this came because I texted him before I left the U.S. I texted him being like, yo, I'm sitting in coach. It's bad out here, Ebro. It's bad.
Yo, your man couldn't even ride an economy to get
From the jump.
The first flight from D.C. to Miami. I get to the airport, the American Airlines desk, and I'm like, we didn't bother with first class. I was like, nah, that's crazy. We're on a queue. We don't need that. We get there. It goes Group 8. I went Group 8. How many groups do they have? So this is you talk about first world problems. I'm already upset.
Ebro, when he told me he was gonna go to Cuba, I said, okay, P, listen to me. I said, this is not a vacation where you're gonna go lay back and get a pina colada with a little umbrella on it. You have to remember, it's very humble, and you're going for the culture. I try to mentally prepare him.
You should have stopped that. It's not a vacation.
Right.
It's an adventure.
That's a great
learning experience. Okay.
Now, Laura did try to prepare me, but Laura also had a different experience. She went down with Red Bull. She stayed at the Hotel Nacional, and she went out and did cultural things during the day, and then would return to the Hotel Nacional at night, which is the famous hotel where Lucky Luciano and all these famous mafiosos used to go do their deals. We, based on recommendations from Natalie's photographer friends and different people she knows who's traveled, was like, listen, if you're going to go to Cuba, you don't want to go stay at a hotel because the hotels are owned and run by the government. If you want to support the people, stay at an Airbnb. That way you can give directly to someone. Now, we did that. We got to the place first day, show up. First thing I notice, it's very hot in here. Why is there no electricity? Because I read like 100 reviews for this place. Nobody said, hey, the power goes out all the time. Because just so you know, in Old Havana, power doesn't generally go out that much. That's not they keep that neighborhood lit because it's an important part of tourism. So generally speaking, Old Havana is good electricity-wise. Not when we got there. It was 149 degrees, okay? It was bad. Now, I meet the lady who's hosting the Airbnb. I'd been communicating with her over messages on the app leading up to this, no problem. Oh, yeah, Airbnb automatically translates your messages. When I saw her in person, we didn't have an Airbnb computer to communicate between us. It was just us speaking. And when I tell you she spoke not a word of English, she did not speak a word of English. However, that wasn't the frustrating part. I'm in a Spanish-speaking country. I'm not a total yo-yo. I'm not that dumb a privileged American where I'm showing up going, speak English. So I'm like, let me speak my broken-ass Spanish.
Right, I'm proud of you.
Pretty good.
I'm proud of you. Yeah.
Yo, for some reason, the lady who ran my Airbnb, she was the only person in Cuba who could not understand one word of my Spanish. I mean, not one word. I'm like,
What were you saying?
I'm like,
What
she
were you
holds
saying?
up 4 sets of keys for me. I'm like, no sé cuál llaves para. I just didn't know what to even ask at that point because I'm like, I need you to show me each key for each door. Now
I understand what you said.
Yeah,
so
I understand what you meant.
No,
Cuál
know?
llaves?
Yeah,
I got which key? Like that's not.
Llaves.
You gotta work with me, lady. I
Okay,
gave you
okay.
which key.
Cuál llaves?
So I would say, I would be like, you know, I'm talking about the most basic things.
Like, what else would you say? What else?
Quiero ir para comer.
Oh, that's good.
Sabes una restaurante que nosotros
That's good.
podemos ir?
Yo, that's pretty
good.
good. That's
That's
clean.
good.
She would stare at me like I was speaking Swahili. She did not know what I was saying. And
Like,
then
get
she
this gringo Spanish out of here.
So that was day one. You know, I saw a roach in our place that was
How big? How big?
Yo,
roach? You
by the
only
way,
saw
I
one
want to be
roach?
clear. Living in Manhattan, even in a nice apartment, I get my. You guys know I get my share of water bugs. They're
Right.
scary here. This joint was double the size, triple the size. It was gargantuan, and I had to kill it because once Natalie saw it, I'm like, well, now I got to handle this. So I murdered that SOB. It was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And we started doing our activities, which were amazing. We did a day trip to the beach with an amazing Airbnb experience.
Nice.
The dude was, taught us a
Nice.
lot. We learned a lot. Now, of course, we get back and find out later from our friend who we met that day that she had tested positive for COVID.
Yikes.
So, not exactly what you're looking for, but it's okay. And then we did an Afro-Cuban cuisine experience, which was amazing. Learned some things about Santeria. Laura, I got a limpia. We got cleansed.
Yeah.
Nice, it's
Wow.
Yeah, tasted amazing food. Shawnee, we were hanging out with the elders, playing music.
Come on now.
Beautiful.
That's what you're
Beautiful.
supposed to
Cuban
do.
people so nice, right?
Did you do a little
No.
dancing with your hand on your belly and one
By
hand
the
in
way,
air?
I wasn't doing salsa dancing. It was more like they did this thing where Natalie has a video of it. It's so embarrassing. I'll send it to you guys, but they go around with their little like shaker. And when they come up to you, you got to come like dance up, and then they like shake it all out, and you got to like cleanse yourself out.
Right, exhale.
Yo, it's the most of all the awkward things I've ever done, guys. It's so uncomfortable.
And it's caught on video.
Yo,
It's
so
on
what-
video. Now, I do have to say, the people in Cuba, literally, Ebro's right, the warmest, the kindest people. And one thing that makes the experience incredibly unique that I was not aware of is that, like, violent crime is not really a thing in Cuba.
Yeah.
So even when you're in the poorest of poor neighborhoods, where if you were in the United States or Europe or anywhere else in the world, really, you'd be like, we've been programmed to be scared for our physical well-being. You could walk through, we would go home at 10 o'clock at night seeing random shadows in the dark. You still wouldn't be scared because no one's like that. It's just they don't have violence as part of their day-to-day life in that way, which
Not in
I
the
thought
culture
was
like that.
For the most
yeah,
part.
and it's incredibly punished too, as well. Of course, I mean that also factors into the communist government and the fact that if you mess with a tourist, your life is over. So there's a lot of things around that, but at the same time, as a visitor, we felt totally safe. Our next door neighbors had like nothing, right? It was a woman who was braiding people's hair in her apartment. That was the business she had. And her kids, every time we'd come home, they were sitting on the stoop outside of our apartment, so friendly, so kind. The people were just fantastic. But then, at the end of the trip, we'd been there about 5 days. Power had gone out maybe 3 times. We'd seen a few interesting things.
Nice.
We'd had a really good time on our excursions. But Natalie ended up looking down off of our staircase, which was like outside of our apartment. and she saw the ritual sacrifice of pigeons.
Nice.
She
Okay.
didn't view it that way. She didn't.
How many pigeons?
2 pigeons had their
And
necks
you said
snapped.
it was a ritual, like it was burning candles and playing music?
Oh, music was going. So that's how she started watching, because she's like, oh,
It's a
was there
party.
smoke? There was smoke. She saw smoke. She heard music. Listen, it was a Friday night, Ebro. It felt like Shabbos. You know,
That's
she's
right.
like,
Maybe
hold
it
on.
was. Maybe
But
it
no, and
was.
it probably was. It probably was the Friday night, thing. And then when they twisted those necks, the heads clean off of the pigeons, I say, you know what? I think it may be time for us to just go to a hotel.
It's like, let's get out of here.
No judgment, man. Like, listen, Santeria the religion has been totally bastardized worldwide, and people make it sound like it's evil and only used. That's not true. But this was an intense ritual, for a couple of gringos like us. And we closed things out at a hotel for the last day. I was stuck with so many Cuban pesos that I wasn't able to trade back in, but that's neither here nor there. Wow. But did some great things. Went record shopping at this woman Jacqueline's house. Literally, it said, I went to a store. It said, this is one of the best record stores in all of Cuba. Casto, I got there. I'm like, I just see an apartment. I knock on the door. Dog starts barking. I'm like, what kind of store is this? The woman sees me, comes down and opens the door, and the record store was her kitchen.
Yeah.
Wow.
The 45s were lined up next to her dishes.
Yo, she had some fire in there?
Yo, I got some great stuff. And unfortunately, damn it, I would have bought so much more if I knew they wouldn't take back my Cuban pesos. Right. So I'm stuck with all this money. I would have bought everything she had. She had so much fire, and she was so nice. Listen, overall, it was a great experience. The people were amazing. It gave me a lot of appreciation, though, for just how good we have it over here. Because, man, people don't
experience.
they don't
Definitely
have
not a vacaciones.
Yeah, it's
do
a
you need a
learning
va-
experience.
That was
Do you need a
educational.
vacation?
I need a
for
vacation
this trip.
I need a vacation after this vacation.